at the human brain under a microscope, we will see that it is actually composed of countless cells, each cell in turn made up of extremely small particles. In other words, our brain is essentially a complex system of countless microscopic particles. A single microscopic particle has no consciousness. But why does a combination of countless particles into a human being produce consciousness? This is a philosophical problem that has puzzled humanity for decades. We know that everything in the universe is composed of countless microscopic particles. And when different microscopic particles combine in different proportions, they create entirely different substances. We humans have consciousness, but does that mean these microscopic particles actually possess self-awareness? This is truly an extremely complex question. To find the answer, perhaps we need to approach it from the perspective of quantum mechanics. First of all, what is consciousness? Generally, consciousness refers to the activity of high-level neural networks involving cognition, reasoning, understanding, and self-awareness. Although we currently cannot fully understand the causes of consciousness formation, according to many previous studies, not only humans but some animals also possess self-awareness. Because animals not only exhibit emotional memory and certain social skills, but in some aspects, they even perform better than humans. However, animal consciousness is still in a primitive stage, far inferior to the advanced consciousness of humans. Neuroscientists once defined the transmission process in the brain's neural network as consciousness. But later it was discovered that consciousness is not simply the activity of neural networks. For example, a jellyfish has no neural network or brain structure, but it still displays a certain level of intelligence to seek survival advantages. So the brain's neural network is not a mandatory condition for consciousness. Then what is the key factor leading to our consciousness? Some believe this may be related to our living environment. We know that there are many different forms of life on Earth, and they all form through adaptation to the natural environment during long-term evolution. As the highest form of life on Earth, humans gradually develop unique advantages when competing with other organisms. One of the most important advantages is that we possess a highly developed brain and a complex language system. This allows us to think about problems, communicate information, create culture, invent tools, etc., and these abilities are called intelligence. There is a close relationship between intelligence and consciousness. Intelligence helps us perceive ourselves in the external world, while making reasonable judgments and choices. Consciousness allows us to feel our existence in the world and generate emotions and values. It can be said that intelligence is the foundation of consciousness, and consciousness is the sublimation of intelligence. Therefore, we can speculate that the formation of consciousness is related to our level of intelligence. If we place the human brain under a microscope, we will see that it is actually composed of countless cells, each cell in turn made up of extremely small particles. In other words, our brain is essentially a complex system of countless microscopic particles. So, do these microscopic particles also have consciousness? Currently, the academic community has no clear answer to this question. Based on current knowledge, we can preliminarily conclude that a single microscopic particle has no consciousness. Why is that? Because the capabilities of an extremely small particle are very limited. They only follow some basic physical laws, such as the law of universal gravitation, electromagnetic force laws, quantum mechanics laws, etc. These laws determine the motion states and interactions of microscopic particles, and these states are unrelated to any subjective judgments or choices. In other words, individual microscopic particles have no capacity for perception or choice, but only passively receive external influences and react according to fixed laws. As mentioned, consciousness is a form of advanced neural network activity. Consciousness requires certain cognitive abilities and choices, so individual microscopic particles do not qualify to generate consciousness and therefore have no consciousness. So why can a collection of particles create consciousness? This actually relates to a typical issue, which is quantitative change leading to qualitative change. We know that there are many complex systems in the universe, such as galaxies, life, atmospheres, etc. These complex systems consist of countless simple elements, but they exhibit completely different characteristics and functions from the simple elements. For example, water elements consist of hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms. But water has properties like solid, liquid, and gas, while hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms do not have these properties. This shows that when simple elements are combined in a certain way, new properties and functions emerge. Similarly, when countless elementary particles are combined in a certain way, various substances and life forms will be formed. When these substances and life forms reach a certain level, new characteristics and functions will be created, such as intelligence and consciousness. This indicates that intelligence and consciousness are not inherent properties of a single elementary particle, but rather new properties and functions formed by the combination of countless elementary particles. It can be understood that consciousness is an emergent phenomenon, a complexity formed from the interaction of countless simple elements. So how do extremely small particles interact? We know that there is a law in quantum mechanics, which is the uncertainty principle or wave-particle duality. This principle tells us that it is impossible to simultaneously measure the position and momentum of any elementary particle. This causes all elementary particles to exhibit a certain degree of uncertainty. And this uncertainty, specifically quantum entanglement, seems to be the root of consciousness. So what is the relationship between quantum entanglement and consciousness? Some scientists believe that quantum entanglement may be the key mechanism in the emergence of consciousness. They believe that there are many extremely small channels in a human brain, such as microtubules, neurons, synapses, etc. The particles in these extremely small tubes can become entangled under certain conditions and form a massive quantum system in the brain. And when we think or feel, we observe this quantum system, causing it to collapse into a certain state and create subjective experience. In other words, consciousness is a quantum phenomenon generated by the interaction of countless entangled particles. This theory is called a quantum consciousness theory, attempting to use quantum mechanics to explain the nature and mechanism of consciousness. It believes that consciousness is not a material property, but an information property. It can be understood that consciousness is not determined by matter itself, but by the interaction between matter. Of course, the quantum consciousness theory is not a perfect theory and still has many unresolved problems. For example, how to prove that quantum entanglement exists in the brain. How to explain how the quantum system in the brain resists external interference and increases signal-to-noise ratio. And how to explain how the consciousness of different people communicates and influences each other. These problems require more experiments and theories to verify and improve. Consciousness is a complex phenomenon that remains a mystery to science. Research on quantum entanglement and consciousness is still in its early stages. However, this is still a promising research field that can provide a new approach, helping us better understand the nature of consciousness.